Today is Wednesday, November 13, 2024. My name is Kathy Blessum. I'm conducting an interview for the Heart of America, Germans from Russia in Rugby, North Dakota. Today we're doing a second interview with Frances Schneider. So we might build on some of the things we talked about last time. One of the things that just came to mind, you told us that when there was a wedding and a wedding dance, the young people, the kids didn't go. It was adults only. What do you know what the reason was for that?
Well, I think because most of the weddings in those days were in the house. And then they had the dance in the evening in a hall, usually. And then the younger people came. But
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah,
So the
but,
younger people were allowed to come to the dance. It was just
yeah,
the
well,
ceremony.
in those days they couldn't have mass after 12 o'clock noon. So that was the reason the weddings were in the morning for mass.
Okay.
And then that was 2 meals. And usually in those days, the weddings were on Monday or Tuesday, not on the week, not
Really?
on Saturday.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So you said in the house. Were the meals served in the house?
Yes, they were. And it wasn't even, when I think back, it wasn't even the bride or groom's friends. It was the parents or their uncles and aunts and
Okay.
like that. But, yeah, in fact, the only time you got to go to a wedding is if you were a table waitress or the boys usually passed the beer and the home brew around.
Okay. Okay. The home brew, right?
yeah,
that was a common
Yeah, it was
treat.
home. Mm-hmm. What is it called anyway? That
Yeah.
alcohol that they use?
The Everclear.
Everclear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so do you suppose there was an age limit for the boys that were passing that out, or was it
I don't think so.
anybody that was available? Or?
There was no age limit for the girls either. You had to wash the dishes. There were no plastic or styrofoam. It was glass plates and glasses, and then we had to set the table and wash the dishes and set the table again for supper.
And that was in the home, the meal.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I served one wedding that the cooks were actually in the summer kitchen, and the wedding was over in the house, so we had a ways to go. The cooks did bring some of the bigger kettles over, I think, but we still had to go back and forth to the summer kitchen, which was next to the house. But
Yeah. So, like, they probably served in shifts then, if there wasn't enough room for.
I don't know. I think they had. What they did, usually the front room was cleaned out. So that's where the tables were, and that's where they took them down, and then they danced in the afternoon there.
In the house?
In the house.
Oh, okay.
And there might have been some places where the bedrooms were even open with tables and when they ate, but like I said, there weren't a lot of people they were grown-ups, and I think they all ate at the same time.
Okay. Okay. So, and then you said they danced in the afternoon in the house. So, how was the music provided?
The same orchestra, I think, that they had at night. Did you ever remember Simon and Bosch and
Yes.
Simon Koenig?
Yeah.
Usually it was at least one of them playing, but then in the evening, Simon Koenig's son would play with them too. But
Do you have any idea what they got paid for? They played in the afternoon and all evening and part of the night?
well, I really don't. I know we had to pay them, but I really don't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It wasn't a lot in today's money.
So is that how it was for your wedding? Did you have a similar?
We had our wedding in the Memorial Hall, and we ate downstairs and danced upstairs.
What year was that?
52.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the wedding was in the church?
Yeah.
Close by?
And the other thing was there was no pictures. They couldn't take pictures during Mass in those days. But later on, I think they got to. And usually the couple would go to the photographer in the afternoon and have their picture taken with their attendants. But by the time we got married, he could come in after the mass and he.
But after the wedding, not
Yes,
before.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So your meal and dance were in the Memorial Hall. Did family still do the food preparation, or
They had a cook usually, or two cooks, and
okay?
I don't know. All the weddings that I served at was soup and chicken soup and soup for dinner and
Chicken.
supper. Yeah. For supper, I think it was sausage. I can't remember for sure, but I think it was sausage and potato salad. And dessert was pie in that noon, and usually was angel food cake for supper.
So a lot of those main ingredients, the meat, the potatoes, are probably things that were raised on the farm.
Oh yeah, I remember helping my mother clean the chickens for my brother's wedding. So
And what was that like?
that was the same, but they had it in the hall too by that time. They got married in Karlsruhe.
Do you remember how many chickens?
No, I don't, but
A lot.
I remember it was getting cold. It was October.
Okay, that's what I was thinking too, is because of the conditions of the preparation. And did a wedding only take place in warm weather? Like probably not in winter?
Well, my in-laws got married in November, and that was cold then, but my Casper's brothers and
Yeah. I heard a story once about a relative of mine wanted to get married in August, and her parents wouldn't allow it because they were harvesting.
yeah.
Did you hear things like that?
Oh, yeah. You only got married in June or in October or it's November.
After certain
Yeah.
farming work was
Well,
done?
in those days, there was threshing going on yet, too, when my parents got married. So, in fact, there was a blizzard when my parents got married, evidently, and some of their attendants couldn't even come to the wedding, to the church. So,
What time of year was that?
November,
Okay.
but
Back to one of the food preparations you were talking about, a summer kitchen. Did your farm that you grew up on have a summer kitchen?
Mom wanted one, but she never got one.
She ordered it? Is that
No.
Oh, wanted one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what those summer kitchens were probably old houses that I don't know. It was just one room.
And what was the main purpose of a summer kitchen?
To cook over there in the summertime so the main house wouldn't get so hot
Okay.
when they slept at night. There was no air conditioning in those days, so
So it was not a big house.
no, in fact, I wonder how old I was. Our house only had 3 rooms, 1 bedroom, the front room, and the kitchen.
Okay.
And then later on, my dad added another room onto the house. So we had 2 bedrooms, but
So what would have been in the summer kitchen?
the cooking and the washing machine, and other than that, I guess,
No power.
no electricity in those days.
So the washing machine was out there.
They had motors on in those days. If you had a
Okay.
fancy one, you had a motor, unless you had a tub with the washboard in it.
Did you ever have to do that?
My mother did, but I don't.
Yeah.
I remember the washing machine with the motor, and I got my arm in the wringer, and I was lucky because Mom was there in time to open it up, but I had a friend that got hers in the wringer, and then when it got to the elbow, got stuck, and it kept going around, and it kind of damaged her skin, and
Oh,
but
wow. Those washers had a lot of power, huh?
yeah, that motor on there, it had.
So the washer was in the summer kitchen. Did you bring it? What about in the winter? Like, would it freeze out there?
Oh, they moved in the wintertime.
Okay,
They moved
that was
into
all
the
moved
house,
into the
and
house.
everything was in the house. But
Yeah. So there was no plumbing, no, how, did you have to haul water to the washer to,
oh yeah,
by buckets, or how was that done?
well, we had cream cans, and especially if we were going to wash the next day, we filled. The water had to be heated too. You had to with the coal stove, so, and that's what saved the house a little because all that was over in the summer kitchen then, but
So hauling a lot of water,
you hauled it in and you hauled it out.
and that's what I was going to ask, yeah. So you would probably heat the water, then you had to dump it into the washer. Did you change water with every load of clothes?
No.
Use it as many times as you could?
Well, I think my mother washed all the clothes. Washed the white clothes first, then the colored clothes, and then the blue jeans.
Do you know what she used for soap? What?
She made her soup with lye
Oh,
and fat from the pigs when they butchered.
fat from the pigs?
Yeah.
Oh,
In fact, I still had a box downstairs when I moved to town.
of soap she made.
Yeah.
Really?
I didn't know if I dared use it anymore. So
So it was lye and fat.
yeah, and there had to be water in there, but it had to be stirred, and I remember having to do that. And we had to be careful so it wouldn't squirt up on us because it would burn the skin. It would,
Oh,
but
so the lye was that powerful?
oh yeah, and I don't really remember what else she put in there. Probably something, maybe even some perfume to make it smell good. I don't know, but I know the fat from the pig, the fat that wasn't eatable, and the lye would dissolve that, I guess.
Dissolved the fat. So you heated it to get. Oh, what form was the lye? Did it come in? Was it a powder or
I think it was a powder.
granules? And so you heated it, and then what happened next? You
Stirred it until it got cold, and then she'd pour it into containers and cut it when it would get hard then, and then it cut it into squares. And when she used to wash it, she sliced, kind of grated it off, I guess. But no, that was in the early years. She got a washing machine with a motor on early in my life, I guess, and started buying soap.
But it was dangerous. The lye was
Oh, yeah.
somewhat dangerous to handle.
Until it got hard.
Yeah, yeah. And then it congealed and you had blocks. Yeah. So when you put it into the wash water, did the wash water have to be warm for the soap to dissolve?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Probably hot.
my mother washed in warm water no matter what it was, I think, but
Okay.
not hot, but warm.
Back to the hauling the water. Can you tell us more about that process? What that all involved? How far you hauled it? And you said in cream cans. Did you have a trailer or?
Well, no, we had a little red wagon. Maybe we put it on, and then we shared, like the old 8-gallon cream can had handles on both sides, and two of us would carry that. And our well was back by the barn. If you remember our farm, the barn was quite a ways from the house, but that's where the well was.
And you hauled in a wagon.
Well, we carried it. We had pails and we carried the cans too if there were two of us. If there was just one, I guess.
Spring, summer, winter, fall. Wow. And then when you carried it out, where did it go? How far away from the house did you have to
Well-
get? Because now there's some lye in this water, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they even thought about that in those days, but yeah, it got spilled in the behind the barn or somewhere all the time, I think. And
Back to the laundry. So you had a wringer type washer. After you got fed the clothes through the wringer, what was the procedure next?
well, there was a tub behind it on a stand, and that was the rinse water. And then when they were rinsed, we'd hang them out in the clothesline or hang them around the house in the wintertime, I guess. They had little wooden stands that you could hang clothes on. And
Did you ever hang them outside in the winter?
oh, yeah, if it was a nice day, because they smelled so good when they froze and you brought them in. But they didn't really dry all the way, but it helped, I guess.
So were a lot of the fabrics maybe heavier, hard to handle? Like thinking of jeans and work clothes, were they kind of bulky, like even when they dried?
Well, back in those days, I don't remember coveralls. My dad had bib overalls, and I think the boys did too. And, yeah, jackets. They didn't wash them as often as we do nowadays, but
Yeah. The more about the summer kitchen. So, any canning process? Is that where it
Oh,
was
yeah.
done?
in the canning was done there. And
Can you tell us a little bit about that procedure, like
Well-
from the garden?
we didn't have a summer kitchen, so.
Okay, but how it was done
yeah,
in your
but
house?
the ones that did, if it was anything to do with the stove and the heat, it was done in the summer kitchen, I think. But
Do you know why there was never a summer kitchen on your farm?
I don't know. I guess Dad probably didn't think it was necessary. I don't know, but Mom would have liked one. I know she's always talking about getting a summer kitchen. But
How many buildings were on your farmyard?
well, there were a couple of granaries, and there was a chicken house and a garage and a barn, loafing barn, and a milk house and the house. And most of those my dad built, except the house. And then the barn, he had help with that. And then later on, he built a house, and we got more bedrooms than had an upstairs even, and a basement.
So there was a lot of canning, and you're in this small house with 3 rooms. Was there a basement to store the things?
Well, we called it the cellar. It was a dirt hole in the ground, but and to get down to it, there was a hole in the. I have to think in the front room. I think you opened that door up, and then there was a ladder going down or steps, and that's where where Mom kept the canned stuff, and until we got the new house, then we had a basement.
Did you have underground storage place for summer to keep things cool? I know some farms had a type of a dugout, and they would chop ice in the spring and put it in there. And
Yes, yes.
did you have that type of a?
Yes, my dad did that under the milk house. Because it wasn't cemented out, I don't think, but he went to Towner and got ice from the river, chunks, and then my brother and I had to pour water, and if it was really cold, we would pour water down there. Yeah, and there was ice down there all summer then, once we got. But
Did you get to help with pretty much everything that went on outside?
pretty much, I think.
From what you've been telling us, I feel that way. That- yeah.
Yeah.
So, did you like being outside?
I don't know if it mattered. I had to be there. So.
It wasn't a choice.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, I got used to it. And
Yeah. So, when you got married and you lived on a farm, were you outside on your own farm?
yes, I made that mistake and told my husband I could drive a tractor.
And so you got to drive the tractor doing
Oh,
what?
yeah.
What types
Well, I
of?
did summer, fall, and then I hauled grain until I found out that it was easier to run the combine. So then I ran the combine instead. But didn't have to worry about backing up to the grain elevator and getting it all lined up. And
So you were always, it was you and your husband. There was no hired help or, I suppose when your kids got older, they
the
did
kids
things.
helped, but yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of hired help, I guess.
So because of that history and background, I know at one point it wasn't a choice, but as life moved along and you had your own farm, did you prefer being outside or would you have liked to do more in the house? Or maybe you did both.
Well, I guess I had to do both with little kids around, and my mother would babysit when the kids were little. She'd come down to the farm, but I don't know. I guess I just thought that was life. I don't know.
Do what you could to help.
Yeah. But we didn't have horses anymore when I got married, but on the farm.
For you and your husband, it was
Yeah.
all machinery,
I was tractors and trucks, yeah.
so that was a lot easier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember things about the Depression? Or were you still at home
Well-
at that time?
Didn't realize it, I think, like I was born in 29, so in the dirty 30s, I was there, and we were poor, but I guess us kids didn't realize we were poor. But the thing that I remember is the grasshoppers, and they were solid on the ground. If you walked, they would fly up all over, not like grasshoppers nowadays. If you see one way, of course, there was no spray and stuff to control them in those days. They just had to let them go. But
So you probably weren't aware then, like, whether your dad had enough hay for the cattle.
yeah,
You
or
were-
whether I don't even know if they threshed in those days. I suppose I could have been like 7 or 8, but
too young to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember like any dirt storms or anything like that?
I don't. I think we used to call them little tornadoes or something when the winds would blow over the field and it'd be a dust circle. And
Okay. Yeah.
but,
So yeah, you weren't aware how it might have affected your
yeah,
your neighbors or your other
Yeah.
family members or your little. Long as you had a roof over your head, you were good.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it mustn't have rained in those days because it was dry. And I remember, I think, did the government come around and shoot some of the cows if there wasn't enough food or hay or whatever? Because they were starving and dying in the pastures. So I do remember, and that was the government that did that, came around and did put poison in the yards because there were so many rats around. And I
Rats?
remember having to, because my mother didn't speak English or understand English, so if my dad wasn't there or anybody else, then I would have to be the translator, I guess. But I had to show the guide our different buildings, and he put poison there.
For rats.
Yes.
So, did that happen in other yards too?
I don't know if,
So-
'cause-
That was kind of dangerous to have that poison
well,
around.
yeah. I don't know how that worked because everybody had dogs and cats and stuff around, but I remember that being done, and I wasn't very old for that either, I guess. But
Well, I'm sure being the translator, that left an impression on you.
yeah,
If you had to help
yeah.
your
Even the
mother.
toilet had to have some in it. So,
Really? Yeah.
so
Talking about water again, you mentioned outdoor bathroom. Water in the, like for the kitchen use in the house, did you have any storage unit for water? Like a cistern or?
well, the old coal stove had a reservoir on the side, and we used to keep that full, and that would be warm if the stove was being used and there was fire. Then the reservoir water would be warm. But yeah, we had a water pail sitting on the stand with a dipper in it, and everybody drank out of that dipper, whether it was company or family or whatever.
How about for bathing? What kind of a setup did you have?
Oh, they had a big wash tub and put water in, and not just one bathed in that. The youngest one got to be first.
And that water was all carried in and
Oh, yeah.
carried out. Yeah.
Heated in, and for each one they heated it up a little bit more hot, warm water in it. And
You mentioned something earlier about threshing crews coming to the yard. Did you ever have to help with that? Like
not
any part?
not when I was little. We loved when the cook car came to the yard, and then they'd get the eggs and the milk and the cream from the farms that they were stationed at. But yeah, I cooked in a cook car when I was older. Margaret Brosart, Joe Brosart's wife, and she did most of the cooking. I did the dishwashing and helped Joe with the chores, I guess, in the morning. But
So, did they come with a crew, a threshing crew, and the
Oh,
cook
yeah.
cart? That was
yeah, and the bundle haulers, and they slept upstairs in the barn upstairs. The cooks slept in the cook car, I guess, or else they went home. I think they might have gone home, those two girls. There were always two girls in there when they came.
Did you travel with her in that cook car to other farmyards?
No, when I worked with Margaret, it was in the home place, and they came there to eat.
And there was no refrigeration, no running water. So did you make everything fresh every day?
Pretty much, and you had to have warm water when the bundle haulers came home, the field workers, because they would wash in the back. There'd be on these cook cars that I saw anyway, was like a little shelf and a little dish, and they'd pour their water in there and wash their hands. No baths, just the face and the hands, I guess. And
Yeah.
um,
What kind of foods would you make in a cook car, typically?
I think pretty much what they cooked. If the farmers gave them chickens, I think they cooked chickens, and I don't know, ham and meatballs, and
How many meals a day?
they had 3 big meals and 2 lunches. So they had breakfast before they went out, and then we had to pack a lunch, which would be sandwiches and whatever. And then they'd come home for the noon meal, and then at 4 o'clock they had another lunch, and then they had supper. They came home for that.
What did you pack a lunch in? What kind of a container was available?
I think they just had, well, in the old days, they got lard in a big round. I don't know if you ever saw any of those containers. Everything was metal in those days. And I don't know, I think it was just boxes that they packed it in. Because I think Margaret did the packing and I did the getting the sandwiches ready or whatever. And then the big coffee pot, like we used to have even in the parish hall, a big white coffee pot. And That was, and the cups.
Baked bread every day, I suppose, for sandwiches and.
I don't even know if Margaret baked bread. I don't. And she couldn't have had it froze. I don't remember how that bread worked.
Okay, okay.
But
And the like the chicken, did you have to butcher the chickens yourself before you cooked them?
when the cook car came to our yard, I remember we had to clean some chickens for dinner or for supper. But it wasn't every day. But
Like in your farmyard, do you remember how many days this process took, the threshing crew?
I think if the weather was good, maybe 3 days. I don't know. I didn't pay enough attention in those days, I guess. But,
So there was a process before the threshing of the bundles, stacking those. Did you ever, or
shock. Oh, yeah.
shocks? There was a binder, right? Is that what the machine was
Yeah.
called?
The horses pulled the binder, and then they'd make rows across so there'd be a row across, so you wouldn't just have one dump. You could get from several dumps to make I don't even remember what they were called, stacks, bundle stacks. 'Cause,
Of those shocks
yeah,
of grain.
yeah.
Did you have to help with that part?
Oh, yeah.
Were they heavy?
Well, the wheat was heavier than the oats. I remember that. In fact, my brother Valentine decided that we were going to shock for our neighbor that he was a bachelor and he wanted to hire somebody, and Valentine talked me into it, but we didn't even get it all done. I think my dad came and my mom and helped us finish the field because it took a couple of days. But
Your brother volunteered your labor.
yeah, probably threatened me too because I wasn't a big shocker. I didn't like that one. But
So you made piles of those. Then when it was time to thresh, somebody had to go out and
those were
haul
the
them.
bundle haulers. They came with the hay rack and the horses and throw them in the hay rack, and then they'd have to haul them to where the threshing machine was stationed. And yeah, and then there'd be a big straw pile, and the farmers would use that for bedding, and cows would use it for shelter, I guess.
And the grain, how did that get processed? It was
Well, that was horses pulled the wagon there too, but that was a chore because the horses wouldn't always back upright to the granary. But I didn't have to do that. Mom did, I guess, but usually Dad came and did that. But
so your
and
mom
then they
did some.
shoveled them by hand, shoveled it into the granary by hand, and
Your mom did some outside work too.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
She did more before because she talked about taking our older brother when he was a baby, laying him on a blanket by wherever they were, by the haystack or something, and
So they had to haul it home, shoveled it into a bin. Then what happened when they wanted to sell it?
I guess they had to shovel it back out again. My dad did have an old Model T truck, and I don't know if he had that right away but I remember helping Mom shovel the grain into the granary bed with the horses yet. But I think he had that truck shortly after that. Valentine would know more about that than me, but
Do you ever remember while working with horses that you had to let them rest?
oh yeah. They rested during the noon hour. I was thinking about that one day, or they had little net things to put around their mouths to keep the flies away, or or else so they wouldn't graze when they were supposed to be working or something.
No eating on the job.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you didn't work late at night because you couldn't work in the dark like they do now. There was no light, so it was more early morning than it was an early night.
And you said your dad had a lot of horses?
He did everything with horses when I was little. I remember when he got his first tractor, I think he traded like 4 horses, and I suppose he had to give some money to it, but it was an international tractor.
Oh, and he traded horses for the tractor.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder what the dealer did with those horses.
Yeah. I don't know. I've wondered about that too. If he probably sold them to people that still work with horses. I don't know. But
You kept chickens over winter on the farm?
oh yeah.
What did that involve to make sure they were?
Well, I don't know if they had to keep a certain amount, but usually the chicken house was warm.
You didn't have to heat it?
No. The water may be froze in there, but the chickens didn't freeze.
And how about pigs? Pigs over winter, year round?
Yes, I don't know where the pigs were though. If they were outside, I don't remember that. The milk cows that had calves, their calves were in the barn. We had to feed them with a pail and milk, separated milk. Did you ever know a separator?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The
Yes.
skim milk would get, the calves would get that, and the pigs, but they must have been outside. I can't remember right now. I probably will tonight when I'm in bed. I don't know.
So tell us about the separating process of the milk.
Well, that started out with you had to turn it. Somebody had to turn the crank. But then when we got electricity, we had electric when we just plugged it in. And somebody had to pour the milk in on top to keep the bowl full up there. And the cream would go down one spout and the skim milk would go down the other spout. And you had to change the pail for the milk so it wouldn't run over.
And what did you, okay, the milk was fed to the calves. What did you do with the cream?
Sold it. But Mom used a lot of cream. And she made a lot of cottage cheese and stuff with the skim milk, too. Cheese.
Where was the cream sold?
In Rugby, to the creamery. Rugby Creamery, I guess.
More hauling cream cans full of liquid.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes they would tip over, too, I guess, in the car, in the trunk, or wherever.
Oh. Do you remember hauling them to town with horses?
One time in the wintertime, Dad took us to church with horses. But I was little yet then. But
Do you remember how old you might have been when they got a car?
I don't even remember when they got a car because Mom would say she took cream to town with the buggy and a horse. I don't remember that either. That was before me, I guess. But I don't remember the first car, or whether it was there when I came or what. I don't remember.
Do you remember what your road was like?
There wasn't much road. I know there was more like a prairie tail that went past our yard until when they built the new highway then, that number 3, they went west 1 mile, so then it went by our place. But it wasn't paved, it was gravel. The only paved road that I remember growing up was number 2. And that went through town here.
Okay. Did anyone ever tell you any stories about when you were born? Were you born at home?
We all were born at home, even my youngest brother, Daniel. But by that time I was 6 years old, and I remember the doctor coming to the house, and my aunt came, and we had to go to Grandma's. Grandma came, she brought Grandma, and took us back to Grandma's house, and Grandma stayed with Mom. But I didn't even know what was going on then. But
Who was the doctor?
I don't remember. It wasn't no Johnson.
Okay. Yeah. So did somebody go get him? I mean, you didn't have a phone to call him.
I think my Uncle Nick that lived, I think my dad went and told him to get the doctor, and he went and got Grandma, or how that worked. But yeah, and doctors made house calls in those days. They came to the farm if you
Okay.
needed.
For other things too,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
would?
Yeah.
Like, did they ever come for something that was...
We never had one, but we were out in the yard one day, and that was Dr. C.G. He came walking. He had car trouble. He was on his way to some farm, and Dad had to help him then. But
Okay. Yeah. Do you have any idea how the doctor might have been paid?
I don't know. I would think it would be money, though,
Okay.
by
Not-
that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not chickens.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Did your mother sew? Did she make clothing for you?
She did. She sewed her aprons, and she sewed some dresses, but she didn't sew as much as I sewed. I sewed everything for my kids, I think. But
Where did you learn how to sew?
Huh?
Where did you learn how to sew?
well, I had to tell Mom, because she couldn't read, and tell her. But Mom really didn't have cotton patterns either. She took a brown paper bag and cut a pattern off of something, but when she started getting patterns, I guess I taught myself. I don't know. I was a pedal machine yet when I started sewing.
You didn't sew then at home. It was only when you were married that you started sewing?
No, I sewed at home.
You did
That's where I
some?
started, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Did you ever make your own clothes?
Oh, yeah. I wish I still could. Can't see anymore, so.
Oh.
Yeah, in fact, once we were married, I sewed, I think, all the girls' dresses. They were tickled when they got a boughten dress from somebody.
But when your mother was sewing, do you know where fabric was available?
I think it was in all the stores, like Jacobson's and Penny's and whatever we had in Rugby. I think they all carried material in those days. Casper worked in the Penny store, and they still carried material then, and that's how I got mine. He would get a discount because he worked there. So
Oh, was that before you were married or after?
after.
Okay. Oh. So,
And thread was like 5 cents a spool, and
wow. Did your mother have any other, like she sewed, did she crochet or have any other?
she didn't crochet and she didn't embroider. One of the teachers taught me how to embroider, and then I had some cousins that would stay with us. No, I have to take that back now. We did have help. My dad's sister, they shocked, and my cousin shocked, and then my cousin from Sells, he would come in the summertime and help on the farm.
Mm.
He was almost like family to us. He was there a lot, but
Did your mother ever make, my grandmother did this out of pick a stem of oats when it was still green, and the little kernels she would wrap with some kind of foil, I think from a candy. She would make bouquets out of that. Did your mother ever do anything like that?
No.
Okay.
They used to, like a 5-gallon pail, fill it with barley, I think, and then they'd put like the eggs in there because the chickens would get a spell in the wintertime if it was cold. They wouldn't lay. Then we had those eggs to bake with and stuff. But there were no
In the
fridges.
barley.
Yeah.
Okay.
And down in the cellar.
In the cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any idea how long they could be kept there?
I don't know. I think we always used them all before anything happened to them. I don't know. But
Okay. Yeah. So in the warmer weather, you were an outside worker. When it was cooler, did you do more in the house, like baking or?
yeah, and I liked to bake in those days. I didn't do a lot of cooking. Mom did the cooking, but I liked to bake. I remember when Crisco first came out, and I begged Mom to buy Crisco instead of using the home rendered lard. And then you got a little cookbook with that Crisco.
Okay.
And I would bake all those cakes in there. They all looked so nice in the picture. And I guess they all turned out because Mom kept on letting me do it. So
She kept buying Crisco for you?
yeah. There was no butter Crisco. It was plain then. But
Yeah. Do you remember rendering lard when you were
Oh, yeah.
butchering?
I was usually Mom that had to be done the day after butchering because they did the sausage and all the other stuff on the day of the butchering, but the rendering lard was the next day.
Can you explain that process a little bit of rendering lard?
Well, it had to be heated and it got hot and then it would separate, I guess. Then
Okay, what was it? What was the product you were heating? First of all, let's go back
the
to
fat,
that. The fat from
the pig.
a pig
Yeah,
that had all been trimmed off.
yeah. Well, yeah, that was a long thing. And I think they ground that fat before they put it in the kettle and heated it.
And it had to heat until what happened?
Till the curds got brown. Well, then the
The
lard.
curds got brown.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
the curds settled?
no, they strained them, I think,
Okay.
into cans.
So you had curds and liquid.
I think they'd come to the top when they were, but I'm not sure about that.
So you strained out the curds, and there's a word for that. What was that called?
I know there's a word for it. A lady in Knox, well, Mom too, even made cookies with those. And they were like nuts or walnuts or something in a
Very
cookie.
crispy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very crispy and
Yeah.
flavorful is
But
what.
they were good. I mean,
Yes.
the cookies were good.
Yes. And then the liquid, as it cooled, it hardened.
Yeah,
Right.
then it got white. It gelled or whatever.
And you use that for,
Frying or baking or, in those days, they used lard to make cookies and cakes and stuff. And
anytime you needed
Yeah.
an oil or a shortening. Yeah. I suppose, did that have to be kept cool in the cellar too with probably?
Well, I don't remember exactly where. I remember cured ham hanging in the milk house. They were cured, but I don't know how, because it got warm in that milk house in the summertime. But
Yeah. I think the curing process, the salt and the brine, helped to make it last longer. I don't know how long.
when you buy ham now, it's cured too. But
But we wouldn't leave it hanging in the milk
No,
house.
for sure not. Yeah.
There's so much history with the foods.
Yeah.
The processing, first of all, the raising it, and the processing and the cooking. Yeah,
Yeah, and how they kept it and ate it. I mean, like leftovers. There was no fridge to put them in. But
and people, do you remember people ever getting sick? Or maybe if they did, you didn't know what from.
yeah, I do remember in my later years, people sometimes got sick from a wedding or from the food at the wedding. But
Really? And so they knew it was from the wedding?
yeah, 'cause everybody that was at the wedding got sick. So.
Maybe it wasn't the food. Maybe it was the beverage.
Well, yeah. Well, that was supposed to clear out your vessels.
Clear out your vessels? Oh, that's a good term. I like that. So yes, back to the food. In preparing for a wedding, how many days ahead did they have to start doing that?
Well, that's
So-
why it was on Monday. On Sundays you worked. Even for my wedding and for my brother's, we had to bake the pies on Sunday, but the cake I think we baked a little bit earlier, maybe on Saturday or something. But
So you
Sunday-
could do it on Sunday because you weren't doing farm work? Or
We didn't work on Sundays in those days.
so but that
Sunday-
wasn't considered work to prepare for a
I
wedding.
guess not.
Okay, that is interesting too.
Yeah.
Ah, very interesting. Yes. So it would not be surprising to hear that maybe some food spoiled.
Yeah.
Preparing it.
Well, a lot of it was canned. My mother didn't can a lot of meat, but she did some, but not a lot. Chicken, mostly.
Yeah.
So that was downstairs in the cellar, but some people canned beef and everything, but Mom didn't go to those extremes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do remember canned chicken, and that was good. We liked that.
So how would that be prepared after it had been canned?
Well, it had juice in it, and she just warmed it up, and we ate it. Or sometimes we'd make sandwiches with it or something with the meat, then I'd use the juice that was in there. But
Was so a lot of time and energy put into food preparation, but yet it was always whenever anyone was at your house, that's what you did. You had food for them, even though it wasn't easy. It was,
yes, if somebody came, they ate with us. But
do you feel that's still a thing for you? Are you like that now? Anytime somebody comes to your
I'm
house?
getting lazy.
Oh, gosh.
On the farm I used to, when the neighbor across the road would come over, we'd have coffee, or if we were going to eat supper, he'd sit down and have supper with us. And
Food is the common ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just put another plate down, and
I know some people that consider it a real privilege to prepare food for people
Yeah.
and are insulted if you don't eat. You were aware of that?
well, what I was aware of, we lived among Norwegians, so they didn't even know what a lot of that food was when they eat there.
Would they like it? Would they typically like
Well,
it?
they ate it, so I don't know. I suppose
Yeah.
eat or be hungry. Yeah.
Right. People weren't as fussy.
No, they weren't. And the kids weren't either. If you didn't like what was on the table, you just weren't hungry. You didn't go get a bowl of cereal.
Yeah. And I suppose that carried over, that if kids didn't eat, that was almost an insult to the cook too,
Yeah.
to not eat what they prepared for you.
But I don't remember somebody not eating in those days. There were things that I'd like. I was not crazy about pumpkin stuff, blachenga and stuff like that. but I had to eat it or else go hungry. So, and I did like bean soup, which Mom usually made bean soup and blichinga, but
Yeah.
I could eat more bean soup.
What are your favorite German foods?
Now I like stuff made with dough and chicken soup. Well, I guess that isn't just a German soup food, but I still like my soup, my vegetable soup and stuff. But
What kinds of things made with dough? What?
oh, she would make Nipflen sauerkraut and Nipflen potatoes and Dampfnudel and geschnittene Nudel.
Do you make those things for your family?
I used to do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I still make Nipflen soup. I have some grandkids that when they come, that's what they want. So,
That's Grandma's treat.
you know. And that's easy now. I don't know if it was so easy for when Mom was doing it, but
And did she have recipes, or was it all in her head?
she didn't even have a measuring cup, Kathy. She used a coffee cup or whatever was handy, I guess. And that's why those German recipes are so hard to get, because I don't think those German ladies measured anything. They could feel it if it was right, the right consistency or whatever.
Well, and if there was a language barrier too, well, they didn't have anything to look at to read.
Yeah.
It was from experience, I suppose. Yeah. Not even a measuring cup. Wow. Wow. Oh. Did any of your family have any religious orders, like priests or nuns or any vocations like that?
Not in my family. My sister went to Hankinson for 3 years, but then she finished in Rugby her last year in high school.
Okay.
But and our son went to the seminary for 2 years, but
Okay.
and I did have a cousin that was a nun. She's since passed away, but
Okay. Were you aware of any like that you went to school with that maybe went into that?
yeah, we lived among the Norwegians. There was,
Okay. So right. Yeah.
they
that-
had their church and we had ours, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That was. This is considered. Pierce County in this area is considered the northern end of the settlement of the Germans from Russia. There were
Is that right? Oh.
pretty much, yeah. Like from here south, there were a lot more.
Oh, yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
Because my dad came from Emmons County. That's where my dad was born.
Oh,
And then they moved up to the Tunbridge Brewery area.
your dad did, or his dad?
His dad, when my dad was home yet, I think. But
So your grandfather is the one who came to this country, but he first settled in Emmons County. Do you know why he left there?
no, and I don't even know if he was married when he came here. I have to look in that Brossard book if there's anything in there. I know Grandma was a witch, and her name was Francisca. I suppose they didn't know how to say it in English, so she's...
So they came from Emmons County to Pierce County. And then your grandfather started his own farm?
Yeah, in fact, my grandmother, Rosa, died before I was born, and I think they lived here already by that time.
Okay. So did your dad so it was your grandpa that came here? Were there siblings of your dad that stayed in this area?
Down in Emmons County, I think, well, he had, 5 brothers? They all lived around where we lived.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and I think, I shouldn't say that because I'm not sure, but I was thinking Uncle John might have been born in Russia. But I have to look in the book again. I forgot everything, I guess. But
It's good to have a book to look in.
yes.
Yeah, I think we can quit for today, unless you have a lot more to tell us. I'm
No.
sure you do. Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know how interesting that is.
Very
but-
interesting. Thank you so much, Frances. All right.